Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be, I was a cold fish and lost her. Well, I've got to email this particular guy. He's been following me for a couple of years. He admits he didn't read the book as many times as he should have. But the reason I chose this guy's particular email is because you can see he's still making mistakes because he's still got some limiting beliefs, some fears, some things that are driving him to take actions that are actually causing his girl to lose attraction. And now it went from, when he first found me, he had gotten friend zoned from about a 2-year friends with benefits type of relationship. Started following what I teach, caused her to fall in love with him. Things are good for a while, but the problem is he was acting like too much of a cold fish, and now she's backing away, and he's trying to open her up. She's saying, I need space. He's kind of scratching his head going, what the hell do I do now? So I got a quote that I wrote, and then we're going to go through both emails. And so one thing I just want to let you know, I'm also recording a video right now because I want to upload a version of this to Instagram as well. So if you see me looking this way and this way, I'm just screwing around with a couple cameras to see how it turns out shooting 2 videos at one time. So bear with me. Oh, by the way, I got an announcement to make. My assistant has been working on taking all of my videos and taking the audio off and putting it into podcast form. So it's now available on iTunes, SoundCloud, and all the different podcasting platforms. So if you just look for Coach Corey Wayne on any of the, whatever your favorite podcasting platform is going to be, if you look for that, you'll find my podcast. So we've got a dozen and a half or so uploaded so far, and so what we're going to do is going to take the top performing YouTube videos and upload them as podcasts, because I know guys been asking me that for years, so we're actually in the process of doing that. So let's go through the quote, and then let's get in this guy's email and see what he did right and wrong. And the quote says, human beings most often react to the way they think things are or the way they think they should be, instead of reacting the way that is most appropriate. This includes responding to other people in ways learned in childhood, which often are flawed or inappropriate. Irrational fears, flawed thinking, and limiting beliefs tend to make us react from a place of scarcity and fear. Actions based upon scarcity or fear tend to be more forceful and freedom-robbing, thereby causing a loss of attraction and a desire to get away. Actions based upon abundance tend to be more non-attached, easygoing, patient, and freedom-enhancing, which increases attraction and a desire to get closer. So let's go through his email. He says, hi, Coach. I have both of your books, but I've only read about 3%, about 5 times, and I assume he's talking about 3% Man, which you can read for free on my website by subscribing to the newsletter, understandingrelationships.com. You can also get the audio version of it by doing a free trial with Audible in most countries. So he says, hi, Coach, I got both of your books, but only read 3% about 5 times, and I dropped the ball for various reasons and feel like an idiot. Well, I say it all the time. It's like, if you really want to learn this stuff and you want to not make the same kind of mistakes you've been making, you got to read it 10 to 15 times, because when you only read it a handful of times like this guy did, you start making unnecessary mistakes, because it literally is a paradigm shift. It's a change in the way you think and the way you look at things. And you'll see as we go through his email, he's doing things that are turning this girl off. And it's really, he just hasn't gotten rid of that old programming, and that's where reading the book 10 to 15 times really comes in handy, because when you're in the middle of something, you don't have time to think things out or think what was on page 52 or what was on page 150. You've got to be able to act instinctively, and that's why I say to read it 10 to 15 times, because things just come and they flow. You understand a philosophy. It's a way of thinking. It's not like every single thing that's in the book is set in stone and it's an unbreakable rule. The idea is to do more things right than you do wrong. He says, I managed to get a girl back. I had been friends with benefits for 2 years within 3 months of learning your material. So it's like a lot of guys, they get some success. They're like, hey, I got it. She's all over me. She's in love. I don't need to read this thing 10 to 15 times. And they always neglect the relationship stuff. And those skills come later on in the relationship. And if you're not ready for them, you'll start fumbling the football like this guy did. He says, I went no contact, and it worked. And so the reason you go no contact, if you will, is if it's a negotiation. She's offering platonic friendship and being stuck in friend zone, a non-sexual relationship, and you're not interested in that. So continuing to try to convince somebody and begging and pleading with her to change her mind is weakness. A man who values himself and loves himself and knows he's got a lot to offer somebody is just going to say, hey, if give me a call if you change your mind. And that's it. And he goes on and just says, hey, fuck it. I deserve somebody that's going to make a mutual effort. And obviously that doesn't happen most of the time in these particular cases. That's why it's not you're doing no contact to use a technique. It's just that she's unwilling to give you the terms that you want. And therefore, hey, it's been great. You're awesome. I adore you. But I just can't do the platonic friendship thing especially after what we've been doing for the past 2 years. That's just crazy. I'd prefer just you find whoever you're looking for, and I'll do the same, and wish you all the best. But hey, if you change your mind, please do get in touch, because I would love to see you again. And that's the way you handle it. So the idea, it's the strongest negotiating position is being able to walk away and mean it. And that's why walking away and meaning it means, hey, well, she's not interested in giving me what I want. I want something different than what she's offering. Therefore, a deal is not possible. And therefore, you walk away when you get a shit deal. Because if you stick around with friendship thinking things are going to change, then you're really a fucking chump. And then you're just wasting your life hoping things are going to change with her as she continues to lose respect because you're sticking around. And you're putting up with being stuck in friend zone. So he says, within 2 months of the new me, she said, I love you, which she had never said in the first 2 years of our friendship, as he put it. Friends with benefits. He says, anyway, to cut a long story short, for various reasons, I still felt she wasn't fully committing to our relationship, even though she called 3 times a day, etc., and was much more attentive than she had ever been before. So let's look at that. So she's not matching an unreasonable expectation that he has. Because what's the underlying fear? I'm not good enough. She's never going to love me. She doesn't like me. Therefore, what does the guy do? He tries to force things. He calls too much. How come you don't love me enough? Everything is, what can I do to make her say I love you or want to be with you more than she has? And when it doesn't work out that way, the guy tries to force it. Now, why does he try to force it? Because he doesn't believe in himself. He doesn't see himself as being worthy of that. And so when you really have convinced yourself that you're not worthy, you're going to try to force it. You're going to try to force contact, call too much, do too much, way too soon. And it just smothers a woman until she runs away and backs off. So these are his old things that he used to do in the past. And he stopped to a large degree. But you can see over time as they've been together again that he's kind of drifting back to the old way that he used to be because, again, he only read the book 5 times. And he thought he was golden for a while because she was in love. He had what he wanted, at least so he thought. But because he didn't learn the material, he wasn't prepared. And notice what he does next. And because of this, I said 2 or 3 things trying to be distant, thinking it would help her come forward. So he probably said things that gave her the impression he really didn't give a fuck about her. Not because he didn't give a fuck about her, but because he's trying to play games with her and act like he doesn't care because he thinks, oh, that's going to make her want me more. The idea is to speak from your heart what you want, what you'd like her to do differently, or how you want her to treat you, and then you give her the option to do it or not. She did refer to these things at the time, but didn't make too big a deal about them. Well, guess what? Women don't forget those things. They remember that shit, especially because it affects their emotions and how they feel. He says, anyway, 2 weeks ago, she mentioned that she thought I wasn't bothered about her as much, even though I've continued to date her, take her out, etc., and tell her how lovely she is, but she's dwelled on these 2 or 3 occasions that I've been an arse. Ass, as we say in the States. I assume he's from the UK or Australia, maybe. I don't know if they use it arse in New Zealand or not. But you can see, obviously, it's had a negative effect on, because he's thinking I'm taking her out, I'm dating her, I'm doing these things, I'm saying. However, she's remembering how he made her feel, which he made her feel that he didn't give a fuck. And yet he's hanging out, hooking up, and so what's starting to happen is she's starting to form the perception of, well, I'm just a booty call. He really doesn't care about me. Because remember, he's trying to manipulate her by acting like he doesn't care. That's not what I teach. You reward good behavior with more of your time and attention. And bad behavior, you give them the gift of missing you. What's going on here is she's not as affectionate and as loving as he would like her to be. So in essence, he's throwing a tantrum and punishing her by withdrawing. More than likely, that's probably the way he learned things in childhood. That's passive-aggressive type behavior. You can Google it and look that shit up. Somebody doesn't do something you want them to do, you're going to resist and be a pain in the ass. He said, I said I was silly, and I apologized for making her feel like that, and that I loved her very much, which I thought I showed her all the time. Well, the key is, you know what? I was a real ass, and the way what I said and what I did probably made you feel like I didn't give a damn about you. And you know what? It's totally understandable. But that's not how I feel, and I'm sorry that I gave you the impression. I'm sorry I said the things I said. I was just hurt, and I was upset, and I was mad, and it was childish what I did, and it was wrong. And I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I made you feel like I didn't care about you. That's the right way to handle that kind of an apology. He says, I tried to turn it around, but with her being so busy with stress at work, she works shifts in a hospital, I haven't had a good chance to sit her down and talk. So he's focused on being serious and getting her to behave the way he wants, instead of just being a lot of fun to hang out with, to have fun with, and to hook up with. Anyway, last week she sat down with me after we went out for a meal, and I tried to open her up as she seemed stressed, which that's a good thing to check out if you're following what I talk about and how to communicate with women effectively. But you can tell a lot of his actions are driven by fear, and he's trying to force things because, quite frankly, he's worried about where he stands because she's not treating him as the way she did in the past when she was head over heels. Even though she seems to be still calling him and coming over, but you'll see her in a second. He says she came back with things about work, but then it got on to us. She said she feels differently and wanted space to think because she had expected me to break up with her for a while after that previous talk. Because remember, he gave her the impression he didn't care. But now that he's starting to try to force things again and try to force her to feel a certain way instead of letting her feel a certain way, now she feels forced. That's, when women say I need space, it means they're feeling smothered. So whatever you're doing and whatever you're saying, you're making her feel smothered. Women don't say they need space from somebody they're crazy about. They say that to somebody that's turned them off. She's still been calling and texting every day and wanting to see me up till that point, and even has told me she loves me since at the end of a couple of phone calls. But notice he's convinced that she's not into him. So even though she professes her love, deep down he's like, nah, I don't believe it. And so she tells him, and he doesn't believe her. And because he doesn't believe her, it's almost as if you're fucking lying to me. You don't really mean it. And she can pick up on that. It's an odd vibe. It's not normal. He says, I've given her space, and she asked for it, and now 4 days into it, after she last called. Well, when a woman says space, you got to give her space. Just say, no problem, babe. Call me. I miss you until we talk. And when she reaches out, hey, how you been? I missed you. I've been thinking about you a lot. I'd love to see you. When are you free to get together? Remember, you assume if she's reaching out, she wants to see you. So make that happen. He says, given I need to try and break her walls down again, should I remain distant while she wants time? It's not about remaining distant. It's about honoring her wishes. She said, I need space. You got to give her space and time away from you to wonder about you, to think about you. If you try to force more interactions and force her to spend more time with you, that's communicating to her that you can't handle it emotionally. You can't handle the distance. You can't handle not hearing from her, which is going to make you look weak in her eyes, which will make her back away and test even more. Should I still remain distant while she wants time to get her head clear and rebuild attraction first, and then try, or just wait and try to start having fun again? She's the love of my life, and I want to make her happy. Thanks for your reply. You're awesome. So really all you need to do is just a little subtle tweaking here. I would wait to hear from her. When you do, assume she wants to see you and make a date, and stop trying to create a big confrontation here, because it's obvious you're focused on this and you're focused on how much her behavior is changed, and you're trying to change it forcefully. Instead of just being a great guy to date, being a great boyfriend to hang out with, to have fun, to hook up. You're being way too serious, and you're creating unnecessary drama. And on top of that, you know, part of the problem is you don't know the book well enough, and so you're trying to use techniques and manipulation instead of just showing up and being natural. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is go to my website, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book whatever coaching option works for you. And I will talk to you soon.